Hi, everyone. It's John Galante, president of AE Ventures. I'm delighted to be here today for another Builder Innovator webcast with Jen Cooper. I think the way I want to characterize this is like, I think one of the reasons why I love home building is there's so many statistics, right? I'm a baseball junkie too. And like you could find statistics till the cow comes home as a baseball fan. And the same thing is true of the home building industry. And earlier this year, we walked through the Zillow new construction annual consumer trends report. And I wanted to take some time, with a few episodes to take some of the key data points that I think are actionable, and then to work with Jen to talk a little bit about what those actions might be that are responsive to these shifts and changes and amplifications that we're seeing in the home buying market. The first topic we're taking on is the marketing itself. It's what the buyers are telling Zillow New Construction in their research and what they're telling you builders by extension. What do they need in order to give your homes and communities a fair shot? We try to do our own research. It's so hard to get a response, but Zillow has so many buyers coming to their website, and they take the time to really get to, north of 10,000 buyers responding to these surveys. And I don't think that's matched much of anywhere. So let's look at the particular slides that we're going to bounce off of. This one says buyers want greater access to digital tools. I'll kind of walk through these real quick. I'm more likely to view a home if the listing includes a floor plan that I like. I think what that tells us is we need to show floor plans, on home listings for sure. And we don't always do that. And we don't always do it in a dynamic way.
And I'd love to interject, John, real quick on these data points. Is one, data is changing every year. So in some instances, it's changing every 6 months because consumers vary a little all over the place right now, and so many environmental, economical factors, things that are just changing what's important in that moment. There's that. But then the customer still knows what they're what they're looking for. It's just now that we have data points with more technology stacks growing every day, we're able to dig in a little bit deeper. So I think a lot of these aren't surprising that what the customer is wanting, but now we're starting to be able to just track it with a little bit more granularity because we're having more tools start to enter our environment as a home builder, as a marketer. So something just to keep in mind.
With technology and digital marketing, there's always an intersection to human beings as well in order for us to get to the goal line, typically, whether that's an online sales counselor or someone in the field. And I think, working through those strategies, trying to make sure that there's continuity and that the contacts are additive and not duplicative, and turning the buyer off are really important challenges. But that's a nice new data wrinkle that the Zillow folks were able to expose in this report as well.
One other point to keep in mind is that this is cumulative, so it's not broken down by generation, demographic type of detail. So like age, for example. So we're going to be seeing, while that 3D tour over in person is low, it's most likely going to flex based off of the genre and how, just based off of the age, like the younger generation is going to be just more accustomed to it. But that's a cumulative data point in this particular exercise. So I think over time, we're going to start to see that number change, but it could be different depending on the demographics.
You're saying the digital piece is going to become more dominant versus the in-person piece over time.
And it will be because of generationally what the new generation's expectations are. Will start to squeeze out the older expectations. So just for something to think about demographically. When I think about where we're going with technology, I speak about this term all the time. I rally around it. So I like to think about the consumer of all things philosophy, not just one thing, but of things philosophy. And that is kind of cheering off of the definition of the Internet of Things, which is that customer-centric lens, really thinking about technology. We're thinking about how our experiences in real time with products, and that real time is now morphed to being more technologically savvy. And the home building industry, as we know, it's a kind of a broken record. It's one of the slowest to adopt, mostly because it's just one of the most desired commodities out there that everybody just kind of succumbs to. What does the environment look like that I can make this purchase? So more and more, as these other industries and this kind of full shopping philosophy, I look to retail, I look to hospitality. I don't get a lot from what's going on in my industry. I look outside of it to see what's being done and how am I consuming that content in other realms. So I think before we even talk about what's the home building industry doing and what can we do different, we really have to put on that mindset cap of what is just the overall environment look like? What are those experiences? And how are all of our devices, showing up differently for us? And there's improvements being made. There's still a huge movement of taking out, but the big builders, the big regionals are doing a lot of those things. But there's still even more improvement on that front and more learnings and more data to be had as we keep evolving. So I always like to start off with this topic, that consumer of all things. Don't just think about our box, because we won't be doing the consumer justice if we do that when we have these conversations.
So consumer of things is how are folks looking to make purchases and evaluate products and services, generally speaking, right? And we continue to have a massive transformation. It's long-term now, from in-person brick and mortar type experiences to digital experiences.
With that theory in mind, I like to think about and really, really think about the whole sphere of the consumer. We're motivated by basically there's like a rising 5 areas. And this is reflected in some of the data we're going to talk about today and some of the data that we're going to talk about in the rest of this mini series. Overall, is the customers not just, we rally, and all the media right now is around interest rates and price, and interest rates and price. And that's all we're hearing. But there are other things that are going to fall into different categories that are going to move the consumer. So one of them is where they are looking for ease. They are looking for convenience. If I go on your website and I've looked at 2 other competitors, because that's what I'm going to look at least one other home builder, and I don't feel like it's easy to find price, or I don't feel like it's easy to understand the floor plan, or I don't feel like I'm going to get the service that I need, that's an issue. So ease and convenience. And these calculations are kind of overall what's important. Also, I'm looking for that service, that personal care. So how are you communicating with me? Do you have an OSC? How are they able to take those tools online and serve them up very quickly? I'm also looking for trust and reputation. ChatGPT, AI can now serve up. All I have to do is say, tell me if XYZ home builder is reputable. I'm going to different sources to find that source of truth. Because if I read one bad review, I might automatically create a perception. That's with any service. Buying a car, buying a piece of clothing that you think is overpriced, is it worth it? The product origin, where is it being created? What are some of the information about the materials? Those are super important. That's going to fall into that quality piece. And then health and beauty is still in there, and people are thinking about, you think of the health side for the home, that's important, right? So that's how that category, these are all consumers. This is the whole consumer of all things. These are all bits and pieces that are important to me as a consumer. Now, I haven't talked about home building yet. And then out of that, I don't like to really rally too much around pandemic statistics, but I think it's still relevant that the pandemic did change our perception. We all use technology. We're all running at a faster pace since the pandemic. There's a lot that really changed us. So these new data points, as they continue to morph and wax and wane, are really important to watch. And so then within that realm of those rising motivations, we're also looking at quality and we're also looking at price. So those are important, but they're not everything. And that's what everybody's talking about. So over these other mini-series we're going to talk about, we're going to kind of dig into some of these points. But again, keep this consumer of all things mindset in place for sure. Today, we're talking more specifically around visualization technology experiences. So I want to talk about how do you bring more visualization into the overall marketing mix. And I have this picture of this kind of a puzzle-like elephant. This, as the saying goes, take a bite of the elephant, one bite at a time. We often, as a home building, industry, think there's so many different things we could be doing. We're also working with supply and labor and changing prices and interest rates and moving into new markets and acquisitions. There's a lot going on. So where marketing can focus is specifically how do we start to raise the bar so that we're really falling in the mix of what that consumer expects. So the first thing I would say is do a gap analysis. And this is really mapping your customer journey, understanding all of the different ways that your customer is getting the information. How quickly can I find a floor plan? How quickly can I navigate and understand all of the idiosyncrasies about that home, the elevation, the options, the fit and finish? How much can I really fall in love with the product online? Because we know now 100% people are starting there. It took a long time for the industry to agree that's where they were starting, but they are. So really map the journey and say, where could we lose someone? Map the journey of your competition. Map the journey of the builders you admire and you think are doing it right, and really look at where the opportunities are. Map your journey. That's not buying a home. Map your journey, buying a car, buying a handbag, something else that you want, and really look at those experiences, keeping that consumer of all things mindset. And second, I'd say overindulge in the technology options. Overindulge. You cannot over-educate. And this isn't just going to IBS and sitting in a conference once a year. It's not. This is get to know, am I wrong? Get to know the vendors out there. Dig in, do a demo, do a second demo. Go find out if you can test that demo with the builder down the road. Really,
and you're talking digital marketing technologies here.
Digital marketing. This is anything from technology on the walls in the sales center to understanding the behind the scenes of reserve, build and price a home online, to self-touring. There's a lot of things we're going to talk about today, but go into those the technology, the sessions you sat in at Jeff Shore or IBS or whatever it might be. Go play with it, go learn it, go understand it, and then know if it fits into that gap analysis. There's no such thing as like just osmosis from going to these conferences and that you're just going to go do it. You got to go play. Third would be align with like-minded industry friends that are doing it. Like, go befriend, get to know, join a mastermind, follow, ask questions of these leaders, these other people in this sphere that are doing different things, and ask them questions, because I guarantee you there's a lot of them that are going to help educate, share. We know it's hard to be a marketer in this role. Go align yourself with those folks. And also create a roadmap with your IT team. If you're not already really integrated with your IT team right now, marketing and IT have been trying to do this for some time. There's sometimes some friction in different roadmaps. You've got to figure out how to collaborate and figure out how you're going to get those different pieces on roadmap.
What's the value add from IT for marketing folks as they think through their digital solutions? I mean, sometimes we think of IT as just creating a set of rules, in terms of technology infrastructure and architecture and as policemen on the IT side of things. But are they really able to help the marketing team develop a roadmap for analyzing different solutions? Where do you see the value add in the builder movement?
Maybe I've been overly blessed, but I have had a lot of great IT partners that are really curious about the marketing pathways. What are some things that we can be adding into our mix? And a lot of that is eventually or somewhat controlled by IT, because behind the scenes, we have to make sure that everything is compliant with rules and regulations out there for collecting customer data. There's data privacy we have to manage. And then it's also, what budget does it come out of? Does it come out of IT? Does it come out of marketing? And then we're now integrating a lot of this with our back-end ERPs. Again, the best marketing solutions are going to have really great data points that are tied to the activities and the operations of our business. So many of the conversations when I come in as a fractional CMO, I'm not developing something over on my desk with the marketing team. It's starting with the CEO, the president, head of operations, head of IT, head of sales, and marketing, saying, what does the business need and how we're going to deliver that tool. So again, I may have been very blessed that I've worked with IT teams that are really wanting to go down this path, but you also align with your leadership team on what is the business need. If you identify the business need and how marketing can help lead that charge, that's your very first step to getting it moving. But so much of it is technically tied to IT based off of the operations of the business and the ERP, which it should be. And then last but not least, just look for those quick wins. Again, going back to that elephant, which corner, which bite do you take first? What are you missing in the gap analysis? If you're missing, it's as simple as we don't have interactive floor plans. And it's as simple as we're not creating virtual model tours for things we haven't built yet. Or we would like to have a visualizer. Pick one thing, prioritize, and start that way. I mean, you really, like anything, that's just kind of good old advice. At least pick one thing to start and then figure out what that roadmap is so you can start to prioritize.
We're at the point where it's more than just having floor plans. It is going back to those expectations. Is it fast? Is it convenient? Is it intuitive so that you do have to do your analysis and understand your benchmarking and not be behind on these tools as you implement them. You might think just having it is enough because you're coming from dirt, but it's not. You're still going to have some comparison there, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. That gap analysis, again, speaking somewhat generically here, will help you realize where you could be performing better. But if you're spending, and you should be spending a decent amount of money on your syndication listings and how you're showing up in MLS, because again, there's all these different ways that you and our realtor friends out there are getting the information. Find out where the quickest, easy lifting to just show up better is. It may be that creating the kitchen visualizers, while it's very sticky and it's going to be a fun tool and it's going to create long-lasting engagement and be great for your brand, that's a heavier piece. It could be as simple as, are your photos good? Are they current? Are they not a dirty job site? Can you are you virtually staging your spec inventory? Like, those are some very little easy wins. Are you connecting a Matterport? Getting a Matterport done is dollars, right? Like connecting a Matterport to the listing, the easy things which you're missing versus just a couple lines of text and photos at frame.
Yeah. And your peers that you connect with are good resources for helping you prioritize that stuff. And you have vendors, right, on the software solution side of things that can help you prioritize as well.
Correct. They're seeing the whole gamut of what's out there. There's nothing they haven't seen typically, and they're going to be able to. You should be going to them. I go to my peers all the time, even though I've been fractional CMO for so many years and been in the industry. I'm expecting my service providers to know if the best practices changed, or they tried something different with another builder, or they see where a builder's just getting the best results and it's something that we just missed because we're so busy. Always go back to them and ask for that advice and for that support, because that's why they're there. So going through some of the visual assets, this is a fun example of some of the turnkey things that you can do. Everything from your interactive floor plans, but then you've got your visuals, your renderings, your animations, and how you can now explore these experiences in like a 3D realm. And what's important is that as you start to build that library doesn't just live on your website. You're now be able to create mini reels of things for your social media. You're able to advance and expand what you're doing in your advertising with your digital, with your pre-roll on YouTube, with all of the different things, and in your community itself, how you're showing up on your sales presentation screens. I mean, now when you walk into an office, if you don't have a screen, you're behind. You're already a little archaic if you're expecting everybody to read the gingerbread on the walls. It's visually nice, but people are expecting, we don't leave this except for like sleep and go to the bathroom. right? So, like, why wouldn't we expect some kind of a technology piece in our experiences? And we're going to expect all of those pieces to be visually rendered. So, use it to highlight your architecture, your design, make it even more vibrant, even a little bit more juicy than the finished product. Yes, it's going to glamorize it. You want to do that. It's going to give us a sense of what that community and that neighborhood and breathing life into it before it's done. Because we know when you walk into a master plan, it's dirty. It is not sexy for the first couple of years. Little corners of it will become sexy, but it doesn't really have that look until, honestly, 10-year community. It's when you walk through it 5 years later that you're like, it feels right. So we can share what that future promise is here digitally. You can demonstrate the community. How is it going to feel? Where are the walking paths in relation to the proximity of the homes, the setbacks, all of that with your streetscape, walkability, adding life through storytelling. Because when you come to the table to create even a master plan or a community that you're joining into a master plan, you want to be able to share with your sales team. The story starts the conversation. So you're able to do that, create all that interest. So you want to be creating more of these assets in the future than we are currently today. It will give you a whole another landing page for marketing experience. Why not be more? I think that's the big question. And that's the question to take to the boardroom and to the conversation tables is why aren't we? And many times in the environments that I've worked in at first start is, well, we don't have the budget for it. Again, go back to that roadmap. How do we create budget for it? If we don't, how are we going to be left behind? In a soft market, this is the best time right now to be planning for these assets because it's slower. And it gives us the opportunity to say, out of this pool of buyers that we're actually talking to, what do they want? How are we reaching them? And where are we failing? So this is actually the best time to be innovative. Think about how's your sales kiosk? How is your presentation screen? What's coming up in that space? How are you modifying or moving forward with your design center space with the visualizer? And how are you thinking through all of the different ways that you can create a tour experience? So this graphic on the left-hand side, you can talk about home tours that are a little bit more one-dimensional, where you can walk through the space, and others where you are maybe just sitting in one angle versus going in deeper into the space and playing with the fit and the finish and really getting a 360-degree experience. So more static and more movement. And those are all different things that we want to be thinking about as we're moving through our asset creation in our roadmap design. Ultimately,
do we know how much lift you get from having these dynamic ways of viewing a floor plan and then experiencing it in a more 3D visualization? I mean, do we have an idea of what the lift factor is versus a traditional bird's eye?
That's a good question. What the data shows us, again, depending on which service provider you work with and which tool you get, you need to ask, how can I track that? Regardless of who you use, how can I track that? And in the tools that I use, I do look at how can I track the engagement? How long are they not just on site, but where are they going back to? What part of the sales experience are they going back to the most? Where are they sticking? What options are they picking the most? Because if you find that you put out a floor plan and you're just seeing that people are not wanting like the pop out or some fit and finish or experience that you keep building in and people aren't selecting it, maybe we don't offer that, but people are more pulled to a different type of a floor plan layout. If you start to see that detail, you can then take that back to your product teams, your fit and finish teams. This color for this exterior, nobody's picking it, nobody likes it, but these three are trending a lot, or this architectural feature is not being picked at all. Maybe we don't need it. Maybe the customer doesn't want it. That's what we can get from the data in the time on site.
And then what about the ultimate check on product, whether these things work on results, which is, does a sale happen? Are we doing a better job of integrating the CRMs and the selling information with the front end marketing experience? Are we trying?
we're able to see more about the customer journey today than we used to. Again, it all relates to whoever is leading the marketing team. How curious are you about the data points, and how are you selecting some of your vendors to find those data points, and then how are you, accumulating those all? So one thing that I'll do on my teams, again, based off of the vendors that I've chosen, I can actually see from a digital marketing standpoint in my entire buyer journey, once they convert to a lead. And that's a whole other conversation. But I can see that on average, if I'm getting 40 to 50 to 60 engagements with someone, and what pages they're going to and what pages they're coming back to. So that's super important. And then when we see where we're starting to get the person to convert, if they're converting off an interactive floor plan, if they're converting off a visualizer tool, that is also golden, because we'll start to see maybe how do we serve up those bits and pieces of the website first to get that conversion.
What I see, and I think my bias is towards seeing the front end, these conversations between the software solution provider and the buyers, is the stuff that you see at an event that's presented is kind of user experience, right? And you rarely see a dashboard and the analytics brought up as first item of discussion, or even gotten to in some of the shorter form connections. And it would seem to me that stuff's pretty critical, kind of evaluating.
It's critical and it's scary. It's critical and scary. You know why? Because analytics do scary a lot of marketers. It is. It's taking the creative hat on and putting the analytical hat on, and it's changing constantly. So it's not as fun at a demo at IBS one time a year, but it is a critical piece. Ask those questions. How do I get the data from the back end to pay off this technology? Because that's part of your sell to leadership. And then two, how do I create a tool that really drives the business? Again, it's not about the marketing. It's about driving the business. The marketing's the fancy front end.
It's a really interesting strategy for a buyer. It's just like really be aggressive about asking those questions. How are you going to help me understand with a tool set, with a dashboard, over the long term, what the effectiveness of these tools are? And if somebody can't tell you that answer real well, that's kind of telling in and of itself, right? So
correct. So in this particular example, this is a kiosk developed with in partnership with one of our clients at Visionary Homes, and we created interactive floor plans that allow us to look at side-by-side comparisons of two floor plans at a time. It lets you play with interactivity within the features of the home. If there is like a pop-out, for example, or adding a large closet, if there's any particular add-ons and upgrades that you want within the home, it allows you to see it displayed online, or you can also have it in your kiosk in your sales office. It allows us to thumb through renderings of the home, and also to look at actual tours. And to go through the tours of those homes, you can look at your different selections, your finishes. You can turn furniture on and off to see how the space really changes. Boy, it's not as pretty without furniture in there. It allows you to take those 360 views of the entryways, the closets, to get a sense of the dimension and the depth, linear square footage of that closet. And just gives you a lot of different variety as you're walking through the home. You're able to go through room to room, back up to a den, back down to your primary bedroom, and really explore the home as if you were there. And again, this is creating that sticky factor for your website, for those people that you haven't even met yet, those 40 to 50 to 85 touch points that they're touching with your brand before they've even given your name. That's why that's so important. And then when you're looking at these assets, not online, but to be able to take them and pull them into your sales office, it's super important to create that consistent experience. Because how many times have you walked into a retail store where you say, well, online I saw ... but then you're in the store and they don't have that example, or they don't have that product. You don't feel like you almost feel like maybe they're lying to you. Maybe there's something different. So having that consistent experience online into the sales environment is super, super important. And that's why I look for these tools that give me the ability to wax and wane and to kind of flex our muscles with the customer experience. If you do not have self-touring in your mix, you're going to be behind. So you might as well get on the bandwagon now. And I'm going to share some really fun examples of what we're doing with self-touring. And one way to think about it is you're creating this omni-channel experience, and you're looking at your strategy of your sale, your strategy of your consumer path. You're thinking through how are you going to nurture that buyer between your OSCs and your on-site sales concierge, and also your realtor audience. They're going to be a part of self-touring as well. And then it's an extension for your brand. It's telling people we're transparent. It's telling people we want you to have an on-demand experience. That's huge, 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 huge for your brand. So one way that it extends across the omni-channel is on-site. So you can have your yard signs. We already say people come in off-sited. Add it to your signage strategy. We have self-touring. People at first might go, I don't really know what that is, but I'm telling you in the next couple of years, it's going to be just like a model home. It's going to be an expect. So you can have information about it on your yard signs or virtual signs, and then on your doors to let people know that you could come back and self-tour this home later on a weekend when you kind of don't want that salesperson like breathing over your back, right? And then online, get sticky, that sticky factor, and move buyers closer to touring. So having links to self-touring on with all of your listings on your website, create online campaigns about self-touring, text messages, reminding people you can go tour this home after hours today, get off work, go tour today. We know that you've been waiting to go experience buying a home in today's market. So we're going to make it easy for you. And when you're ready, we're here to talk to you. Also with emails, so there's just a lot of different ways that we can see the self-touring message as another way to try to engage.
There are more and more buyers who talk to the salesperson as a last resort. And some of that's just about their independence and not wanting to be sold. And so they need to, this is this digital native mentality, right? Which is I could collect almost all, if not all of the information I need to make a decision without being dominated by some salesperson, right? So there's that piece. And then I think on the self-guided tour stuff, Jen, we're not even at the end of the beginning is what I would say. We're in the middle of the beginning of the self-guided tour. And I really love your point that it's a reputational thing, that you feel like your product stands up well enough with an unescorted tour, that does say something. And then just to make another connection to earlier, right, is just doing self-guided good enough, or does it need to be self-guided really done the right way? Which I've been arguing this is a place where smart home intersects with the marketing piece, which is you can have a self-guided experience with automation that's got the touches that a realtor would make otherwise, lights on, HVAC running, maybe music instead of freshly baked cookies, whatever. You could get that kind of, this is a welcoming house effect with some automation on self-guided, or you could have a dark, stuffy, self-guided experience, which is probably not going to get you the same results.
Data is singing a new song. It's telling us more detail about the consumer experience than we've seen before. This today, my friends, is actually a fresh report I pulled this morning because on Monday mornings, my teams look to see how our internet, that's one of the self-touring platforms we use, how it performs over the weekend. And why? Because in one of my markets, we're closed on Sundays. It's just something that the market does on Sundays. And so we want to see what traffic came in over the weekend. And we're really watching to see how much activity we're getting after hours. We're also moving our self-touring units, not just to model homes, but to spec homes. So there's a great story here. One, as you can see, that we ironically get a higher uptick in traffic on Wednesdays. Middle of the week, I don't know, but that's what the data's showing. And then we're getting it on Sundays. Again, for this market, since the office is closed, our offices aren't closed. when we have self-touring. So we get to still capitalize on that day. Super important. Also, that goes for holidays. Like, we have holidays and we think, oh, we're going to lose a day selling. You're not. If you're open 7 days a week within your timeframes that you have your self-touring on, you're still open. So it's been a great trajectory over the last year as we've been adding on the units, as we've been starting to promote self-touring, as the market's acclimating to it. We have a straight up line on engagement. So why would I not want this as part of my marketing mix? I don't know. And it also gives us a sense of the buyer temperature. Who's warmest? Who's ready to burst? Who do we need to meet with? This is key insight for my OSC team. So my OSC team looks at this on a daily basis, but especially on Mondays after we were closed for a day, to see who in the mix was coming in once, twice, 3 times. And then we're looking to really capitalize on who is that buyer, when were they coming in, off hours or on hours, so we can get that data. So this is key to us on a daily basis. Also think about your language matters. So how are you communicating that you have this as a tool? How do you want to explore? Great question. Ask the consumer a question, they're going to have an answer in their head. Talk about how you've got walk-in tours available, not just at your model homes, but you marry that with self-guided tours you can schedule online on your own time. You can also look at the quick move-in homes now equipped with that touring. And when you talk about your model hours, remind people you've got self-touring. But this is easy peasy. It's just another way to layer in better content. Here's an example of Tour on Your Times. We actually created an entire logo. We're creating a campaign around a movement. So we created the logo. We go onto our listings online say this is a self-tour home. Any time you can get into the home on any landing page, I can go to self-tour. So it's just reinforcing that I can self-tour this home. We have directionals that say self-tour model home. We have A-frames in front of the house, self-tour model home. We've created videos online that run a pre-roll self-tour model home. We are embracing it as a tactic, and then we can track that tactic and we can say it is helping move the buyer into our funnel. When you're thinking about self-touring, really think holistically. And this is with all of the technology. We're creating a new on-demand journey. At the helm of that, you've got your OSC team. They're the first people to talk to the heartbeat of everything you're doing. Underneath that, you've got the umbrella. You're going from web, you're going from discovery to mapping to finding you, to unlocking that home, to having texting communications, and to going to reserve a home. That's a whole nother piece we didn't even talk about today. There's products out there, only a huge fan of what they're doing. And there's ways to capitalize from that first touch point. We can get the buyer without ever seeing their beautiful faces through the funnel. We're getting the tools. It's just, again, let's figure out where we can start to eat that elephant one bite at a time.
Thank you for sharing, like you always do. So this isn't just like a scratch the surface, respond to the demand for digital tools. This is like how you do some of them, and how you do some of them the right way. Not just checking the box and I got it, but I got it at a level that it's effective.